I'm Karen Salmon. I'm the CEO of Force Technologies. This is our very first podcast. How exciting is this? Even though it's freezing today in the depth of winter. With me today, I've got our head of applications, Ben. How you doing? And Charlotte is our sales manager. She's in charge of customers and distribution worldwide. So today, we thought we'd start off with a simple one. What is semiconductor obsolescence? Now, we know what it is because we've been in business for 36 years, but some people don't know what it is. So maybe you could just elaborate on that, Ben.
Semiconductor obsolescence is essentially any time a semiconductor in the market becomes obsolete. That normally is as a result of the OEM no longer manufacturing that product because technology's moved on, and they simply want to move on to newer and better things. So they make that particular IC obsolete, and of course any kind of manufacturer who's designed that chip into their system can no longer obtain that device anymore, and that causes them to have to look around for an alternative solution.
And it's very prevalent in the defence industry, isn't it, Charlotte? When the volumes aren't high, it's not like we're making millions of mobile phones. It's quite a small industry, isn't it?
Yeah, like you say, and aerospace is quite similar as well. You have quite small volumes going through the systems, the legacy systems that they use. Like you say, they're not making phones, they're not making cars, they're not making computers. So you're not talking millions of chips. So often defence and aerospace tend to get their stuff last. But they still need it. You know, we still need defence systems, we still need aerospace systems. Those companies still need to make and support their systems. So it's very prevalent, obsolescence in those industries.
I think obsolescence is coming more and more as the market's going on. I mean, when we first started in the business of obsolescence, which was 1995, we made our first chip, people didn't know what obsolescence was, did it? They just thought that the chip has gone and, we're stuffed, basically, excuse the expression. But now I think more people, certainly over the last 10 years, I would say, people are learning a bit more about it. You have various organisations that talk about obsolescence. You've got Institute of Obsolescence Management, which we're a member of, which was Components Obsolescence Group many, many years ago. But we get asked about it all the time, don't we?
Yeah, I mean, if you look at Eurofighter, that's been in service now for 30-ish years, I'd say, something along those lines. And they do lots of upgrades and, try and sort of design out their obsolescence issues, but they're still stuck with certain chips that there's no other choice for, and we can still produce them and provide them for them as customers.
Yeah, I think sustainability. I mean, you're not 30, but you're 30. You young people in the industry like to talk about sustainability and how we're going to look after the planet and look after long-term things. But that's really important, isn't it? I mean, we need to plan for the future. Even in obsolescence, we need to plan for the future, don't we?
Yeah, it's always a bit of a, mixed thing because, customers don't want to invest millions and millions of stock sitting on their shelves that they're going to be using, 10, 15, 20 years in the future. But at the same time, if they don't, then, they're just going to get absolutely stuck and have grounded planes or grounded avionic systems
Yeah. How do your customers talk about, I mean, I know we have some customers that are quite happy to put investment in, but when you speak to them about investing in sustainability, what did they say?
I think investing in the sustainability, they understand the obsolescence side of things and they have an obsolescence problem. Yes, they need to fix it. But when it comes to investing, like you say, is quite a big hurdle for them to tackle. You can talk to a buyer, you can talk to an engineer who's really on board with it. They say, yeah, we need to do it. It's going to cause us headaches 10 years down the line, 20 years down the line. But at the end of the day, those companies still have to balance the economic side of it. They can't, invest millions up front sometimes for a particular project, even though they know it's the right thing to do. They still have, shareholders and investors, people they have to contend with to be able to get that investment. And sometimes it's not always possible. I would say in the last kind of 5 years, I've seen more companies have departments dedicated to obsolescence, which is definitely a step forward. Previously, like you say, people didn't realize it was such a big issue or didn't realize this chip's gone, so we can't do anything about it. Now lots of bigger companies in the defense and aerospace have dedicated obsolescence management teams, which is definitely a step forward, I would say. But the investment side of it is definitely a hard one for the companies to tackle.
I think it's also, obsolescence used to be a dirty word, didn't it? And nobody wanted to admit that they had an obsolete problem or that they had not planned ahead or not acted on a last time buy, and actually trying to get customers to admit they have an obsolescence problem is really difficult.
And I mean, we can take the financial burden away from them. I mean, we've been doing long-term storage now on our solutions and stocking base materials, and if a customer purchases the die or the wafers for the component, that's a much smaller percentage of upfront costs that they have to bear, as opposed to having all of the product assembled and sitting in storage ready for use in that manner.
Is that why you made me buy all those cabinets?
Yeah. But it has been good. I mean, it's definitely something that a lot of customers don't think about, and then we get into obsolescence of packages and that kind of thing, because even the packages that the ICs are built into, that becomes more and more of an issue, and even those can go obsolete. And so make investments of those and stock those, and that makes life a lot easier.
And what happened last year, we had the issue with chemicals, didn't we? When allocation was on, a lot of the chemical manufacturers decided to make their stuff obsolete. So some of the chemicals that we have to use in some of our processes, I mean, they went obsolete as well, didn't they?
Yeah, and I mean, it's difficult to make investments and stock those as well. I mean, it's a lesser cost at the end of the day, but it's a difficult line to walk, really. What you invest in and what you stock. So it's definitely helpful if customers are up for making the investments and that kind of thing to keep everything flowing.
I mean, what we have to explain to them is, obsolescence happens. It's not a dirty word. But that we do have to plan for it. You can plan your designs, you can plan your production, but if one of the big guys all of a sudden, they're all launched themselves, aren't they? And recently, with all the manufacturers sort of going together or being bought over, we have very few actual assembly places now and die diffusers in the world, because they've all kind of gone together. They can just dictate the terms, aren't they?
That's what drove all of the allocation issues in the first place. That there's just no one does their manufacture themselves anymore. But I mean, it makes us quite we're a fabulous manufacturer ourselves, and we can be quite nimble with our supply chain, and that allows us to provide product in 14 weeks in a lot of situations where customers are getting quoted 20, 30, 40, upwards even to we sort of up to 70, didn't we, over the allocation period, which is just crazy. No customer can bear that.
Mind you got that die in this week, didn't you? How long did you be waiting for that?
I mean, that was 50 to 60 weeks. Yeah, but I mean that's good. It's one of the cases where we do work with an OEM and they will refab a die for us. So we bought a bit extra than what we need, and
did we?
Yeah.
Did we, Ben?
That can sit in storage for a little bit, and if anyone else needs it, then it's there, ready and waiting. So we do try to make investments where we can.
Because that's the problem, isn't it, Charlotte? If you say to a customer, you've got to buy a whole wafer, but they only want 100 pieces. That's quite a lot of chips sometimes, isn't it?
Yeah. If you're talking about investment, I think it's really hard. Like you say, it used to be a dirty word. I think a lot of companies can feel like, did I plan for that correctly? Like, could I have seen that coming? But like you say, the big manufacturers overnight, they can just say, no, not making that product line anymore. You have this amount of time to figure it out. And then companies, if they don't have the time or the resources, or it's a complete surprise to them that this product's gone obsolete, it's a lot of time that they then have to pour into it. And investment can be a really kind of murky water for them. So that's why we like helping and guiding customers, if they're thinking we want to invest, we don't know what to invest in, or, should we invest in the die? Should we just do the die and the packages? We're here to kind of guide them and say, maybe, you can do this, or you can, any combination that they want to invest in, we're here to kind of talk that through with them.
Yeah, and I think the manufacturers now, because there's so few of them, just putting the prices up, aren't they? I mean, there's one chip that we make for quite a few people, and the die is horrendous, isn't it? I mean, when we first started it, I think the first part was $16 just for the die. Now it's, what's that, but $398 or something?
Yeah, it's crazy.
Within 10 years, that's absolutely ridiculous.
And like you say, with the quantities, if you get away for 450 pieces, but the customers that we work with, because they work with smaller quantities, they say, well, I only need 100 or I only need 50, but the manufacturers say, well, that's the way for you. You've got to buy it all.
It's a difficult line to toe, but I think that really wraps it up, doesn't it? I mean, sustainability is all about investing and making smart investments in the product that you need. So what are we going to be talking about next?
Next time we will be talking about investment, because he's the chairman coming. we don't want him knowing how much money of stock we've got. But we will be talking about the industry and how it's changed. I mean, our founder and chairman's been in the industry a long, long time. Force has been going 36, so I'm really looking forward to hearing what he's got to say about things.
It'd be nice. We'll go through the history of Force and talk about how things have changed over the years.
Yeah, and some of the designs he's done, which are actually quite interesting. Yeah. So, well, thanks everybody for listening. It was a brief introduction into semiconductor obsolescence. Hopefully you learned something. You learned what Force does, and we'll see you next month with Mike.